There once was a time when we blended into the background of nature and we were just another animal on this planet. We used teamwork and ingenuity to craft tools which would help us hunt other animals more easily. Something set us aside from the other apes and mammals. And it wasn't intelligence. It was an inexplicable curiosity for the unknown. This drive pushed some of us to new and undiscovered lands and to expand outwards. This expansion, or colonization, seems to be a constant throughout the history of our species. We have a need to expand and explore. We need to conquer new worlds. Maybe this drive was just pure luck. Maybe it was an evolutionary adaptation, a necessity for our species to thrive. This drive has led us on a hunt for God, and we haven't stopped. Whatever we choose to call them, gods, aliens, it doesn't matter. We want to find something greater than us, so that we may conquer them also. This is why I believe that if humans continue technological advancement at a similar rate, we will inevitably end up leaving our home planet, not because we have destroyed it or because we don't appreciate it, as some loonies might claim, but because some of us are driven towards expanding outwards, making our presence known as far and as wide as possible. Trying to predict this far into the future is no simple task. Sure, we can throw around wild guesses, and maybe something will stick. But I want to try something slightly different. I want to try and imagine a realistic and grounded version of events in a best case scenario, more or less. Humans have a tendency to either assume the worst and over-exaggerate, or to let our hopes and dreams blind us to the harsh reality. But I will try to use objectivity and make some reasonable predictions and guesses by using history and technological possibilities as inspiration. The future is almost never what we expect it to be, so I will try to imagine the unimaginable. By the year 3000, the focus will surely be on space travel. In the past, traveling from Europe to the Americas required a great deal of peril, wealth, and time. A vast and unforgiving ocean lay between the two continents. Nowadays, traveling to the moon is incredibly difficult for the best of us. But by the year 3000, it might be as easy as hopping on a plane, putting your seat down, and sleeping to your destination. The moon might become a great hub, a platform to launch all further space expeditions to other planets. It is ideal for this, close enough to the Earth that it isn't too difficult to get to, and without an atmosphere and with a puny gravitational force, rockets will expend almost no fuel to lift off. A colonization of epic proportions might occur in our solar system. Every habitable planet and moon conquered. Hives of human activity hidden in the rocks, away from solar radiation. And powered by massive solar arrays or nuclear power stations, they could become self-sustaining, recycling their own atmosphere, water, and even harboring plant life in giant bubble farms. So now that we've settled on a general direction for our species' future, we can begin to explore different possibilities and likely inventions that may go along with our technological progress. Now, it's important to keep in mind that this video is made with a potentially incorrect assumption that we will actually continue to progress technologically at all. Remember, there is no reason to think that technology will continue to improve or become more impressive. If anything, recent times suggest that we have entered another 1,000 year period of stagnation. But let's put all that aside for now, and let's pretend that our march into the far future is accompanied by massive leaps in technology and knowledge. Near the end of our 2100 AD video, we began to explore some new methods of more efficient space travel. By the year 3000, assuming constant technological progress starting from 2022, we will have the ability to travel between different planetary bodies within our solar system with relative ease. Compared to today's space travel, it would be like crossing the Atlantic in a wooden sailboat versus crossing it on Concorde. Travel times do matter in this instance, as we wouldn't have to pack as many supplies and provisions, nor waste years of our life to get to some of the farther points of our solar system. One way we can achieve this is through the use of ion thrusters, which are already being used on some small spacecraft as a means of propulsion, being vastly more efficient than any chemical rockets. Of course, ion thrusters can't get a rocket ship off the surface of Earth in present day, but once in space, it can accelerate a spacecraft to 200,000 miles per hour, which would bring travel time from Earth to Mars, when they are at their closest point, from 7 months one way to less than a month. Current day space travel is slow, cramped, unsafe, and inefficient. And at the same time, it's a luxury reserved only for a lucky few. Extremely light and strong materials such as titanium alloys, silica aerogels, carbon nanotubes, and 3D graphene can potentially be used to allow for luxurious and cheap space travel. Given 1,000 years of progress, it's easy to imagine ordinary people planning vacations to Mars, boarding a ship, and enjoying luxuries such as swimming pools, gyms, large bedroom apartments, and fine dining facilities on their short, week-long journey to the inner planet. Poor people would probably have shared dorms and fewer facilities, but eventually space travel would become so cheap and efficient that almost everyone will afford it. Private ships and docking facilities very well may be a thing. They could be launched into space using giant electromagnet railgun-esque takeoff strips instead of a chemical rocket engine. If giant centrifuges like spin launch become structurally sound and large enough in the future, they could also be used to catapult the ship into space. Space tourism would flourish, and all rocky bodies in our system explored. The moon would most likely be used as a hub for larger ships to be built and launched, and maybe even the larger freighter ships responsible for trade and the transfer of supplies between planets. The moon's lack of atmosphere and very weak gravity would make it an ideal hub for building and launching ships. This is why building a moon base could be a crucial step in the next stage of mankind's space ventures. The big new moneymaker in the late 2000s and early 3000s will be asteroid mining. These small rocks could be worth trillions due to their valuable resources, and one future business model could involve scouting out different asteroids, learning their composition, and then sending mining and transport ships to the asteroid. Straight mining the asteroid and collecting metals like iron, nickel, cobalt, and even platinum. This boosted resources will fuel humanity's growth and kickstart a sort of interplanetary industry explosion. These asteroids will become a necessity as humans colonize the solar system. It'll mean that building giant colonies on Mars or Titan and building spacecraft will become cheap and easy. What about day-to-day life as a human in the year 3000? If we look back at the lives of people living in the year 1000 AD, we can observe a very different way of life. Most people are farmers, blacksmiths, bakers, builders, or carpenters. They wake at the crack of dawn, eat, begin working in the same profession their fathers may have had, go to a local inn for a pint with their mates, and then sleep again. The fastest mode of transport was a horse, but most people couldn't really afford to travel often. Compare this to someone living in the year 2000 AD. After the Industrial Revolution, society was restructured. Most people were no longer farmers or blacksmiths. Instead, people traveled to work in a building with computers, machines made of microscopic circuits of silicon and plastic, in another metal machine with an insane amount of power produced with minimal effort by the driver. They might then return to their home, connected to a massive grid powering their lights, entertainment devices, and tools. They stick a pre-made meal in a box that uses certain wavelengths of light to cook food, and then turn their magical glass display on to watch events unfold on the other side of the planet in real time. Clearly, if humanity keeps that same level of change up, the year 3000 will be unrecognizable to current generations. People in the year 3000 might not even need sleep. New drugs could appear that will shut off different parts of our brain down at a time and remove all feelings of being tired. Going to work could mean stepping into a large drone, being taken to a small local launch pad, fired up to a skyhook, and then launched towards the moon, where there would be tens of thousands of new jobs, expanding the lunar hub, building more rockets, inspecting rockets, designing new rocket technology, setting out on journeys to explore the farthest reaches of our solar system, or any other number of science-related jobs for the more educated classes. Ironically enough, we might return to a sort of pre-industrial societal structuring. Maybe a complete reversal of what our world has become, due to all the new territory to be expanded into and colonized and farmed and grown from nothing. We may have better tools, but that doesn't mean society will necessarily change or that humans will change. Humans never really change, but our tools do get better. Housing in the future could be almost entirely based in large skyscrapers and towers, or perhaps they will look like these current day earthquake-proof houses. Perhaps more and more people will opt to live in space, in some kind of hotel-like space station, with artificial gravity rooms inside a rotating centrifuge. This would allow for easy travel to other planets, since they wouldn't have to go through the hassle of launching from Earth's surface. Many people might relocate to the new colonies on Mars or other rocky bodies. These people would be committing themselves to very different living conditions, as their muscles would atrophy and their bone densities would decrease due to these rocky planets having a weaker gravitational field. The consequences of this fact are explored very well in the TV series The Expanse. Different races of humans could develop simply because they are spread out on different rocky bodies with varying gravity. Tall, skinny, atrophied humans could live inside asteroids, in constant darkness but protected from solar radiation. Meanwhile, some may opt to remain on Earth permanently and refuse to move. Long-distance communication would be possible using radio waves, but another possibility exists. We could use high-powered lasers instead to transmit more data than is possible via radio waves, similar to how we use optical fiber cables for our internet connection. Communicating with high-powered laser pulses would have its limitations, however. since we would need a direct line of sight to the receiving planet. So we would still partially rely on radio waves, unless we set up a system of mirrors to redirect the laser light around obstacles. Not only would we have an interplanetary online network, but almost all of Earth's surface would be connected to some kind of grid, and the only forests or jungles will exist in small national park type areas. This isn't necessarily all a bad thing. It doesn't mean we've killed our planet, and you'll see why this is later. By this point, chances are that we've mastered the art of controlling our own atmospheric composition, removing or adding CO2 where necessary, essentially playing around with Earth's settings. We will have uncovered more of the universe's secrets, and also the secrets that exist within ourselves. Our brains are currently a mystery. If we unlock the secret to consciousness, for example, we may figure out methods of enhancing our own brains, perhaps merging our brains and bodies with technology, hardware and software enhancements, essentially. All of our natural organs may very well be replaced by artificial lab-made ones right after birth. Even the process of birth may be completely different, with lab-grown children becoming more and more popular. This means that they can be genetically tuned to the parents' exact specifications. They may decide to opt for a different eye color or hair color, for example, and then they would make the decision on whether or not they'd like to replace certain organs with artificial alternatives, which would be more efficient and would last longer and would provide extra protection from diseases. Eventually, we would become almost indistinguishable from machines. The AI takeover we fear may just be enhanced humans taking over the stock humans, both mentally and physically, until it makes no sense not to turn yourself into part machine. But maybe we'll find out everything we thought we knew about the universe was wrong all along, or at the very least, very incomplete. This is quite likely, and it's not the first time it'll have happened. Maybe this newfound knowledge will lead to greater things like faster than light space travel, a working Alcubierre drive perhaps. Currently these things are pure fantasy and are impossible as they violate causality and require the existence of exotic matter. But if we do figure out wormholes one day, or find the key to warp drives, the possibilities from that point forward are endless. Humanity can spread across multiple star systems, and perhaps even make first contact. What about politics? It's very easy to fall into the trap of thinking that current day progressive ideology, or our obsession with democracy, will actually continue into the future. Political systems and ideologies are not a constant. Different systems came and went throughout history. We could have planet-wide empires in the future, monarchies, feudal societies, slave economies, dictatorships, or free market near-stateless utopias. It's possible that hyper-advanced AI will do most, if not all, the manual labor jobs, such as waste treatment and construction. Although no human will be jobless, as our expansion into the outer reaches of the solar system will bring with it many new jobs, setting up new habitats on distant bodies in space, or maybe on a dwarf planet like Ceres. It could be a lifelong dedication for some individuals. It would resemble 19th century American frontier, a wild west of sorts, strange, untamed new lands with seemingly endless space to fill. Interplanetary politics would be many times more complex than the current geopolitics we have now. Either we finally discover a pathway to eternal peace, or, the most likely option, we continue on as we are, constantly fighting each other only now on planetary scales. We wouldn't have world wars, but we would have wars of many worlds. On top of the massive leaps in gene editing technology we will most likely develop, we will also have amazing geoengineering capabilities, perhaps even the ability to terraform an entire planet in a few decades or so. We could even counter Earth's natural climate cycles and prevent ice ages or tropical periods from occurring, keeping each planet at a certain equilibrium. Several massive engineering projects are likely to be underway by the year 3000, one of them being the beginnings of a Dyson sphere. As we continue to unlock the secrets to achieving efficient nuclear fusion here on Terra, we may as well go ahead and make the most of nature's fusion engines by building a network of solar arrays around our own star and wirelessly transmitting that energy between planets and space stations. There are almost too many things to cover when speculating about a far future time period in a 10-minute video, but if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure you comment your future video recommendations, and maybe I'll release a part 2 for this video, going further into depth about the fine details of life in the year 3000. I just really hope someone from the year 3000 finds this video and watches it. But anyways, if you made it this far, thanks for watching.